this is Katie, and thank you for joining me on the My Senses, My Space podcast. And today I wanted to talk about your sense of other living beings around you. It's kind of, I also explain it as like a proximity, feeling that proximity of another person, a furry friend, or even being around living plants. So there isn't like a proper sense of, okay, you can feel someone around you. You can feel if someone's behind you or someone is looking at you. Those kind of senses are actually based on the more common senses, which is sight, sound, and if someone is right next to you or behind you, you could feel them touch your back. But what our body is doing is actually recognizing very slight sounds, or the sound of a movement, or hearing someone across the room, even if they're breathing, and we can be more sensitive to those sounds. And more sensitive, I mean you are picking up on those cues more readily than other people. And so the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because for many people who are neurodivergent, we can have this feeling of when someone else is actually in the room, it can throw us off. That our senses are kind of all heightened and focused on that other being in the room. And it can distract us from what we were doing, or, we're trying to read a book, we're trying to get some work done, trying to do some research, whatever it is. Having someone else in the room can be very distracting. And there's nothing wrong with this. This is just how your body is operating. And that's why a lot of introverts as well, we need alone time. So when we're recharging, we are separating ourselves from those extra senses that we're sensing. Let's see if I can rephrase that. That we are not having those inputs constantly being processed by our brains more, so that our brains can settle and so we can kind of recharge. So if you're sitting down and eating with someone, if you are at the dinner table, if you are watching TV with someone, if you are just in the same living space and taking some quiet time, sometimes thinking about how can we maybe dull some of those senses if it's a situation where you kind of need to be in the room with someone. So playing music, having some white noise, listening to something with our earphones, something like that to distract us from those little tiny noises. But we also have, like, if someone's sitting right next to us, we can feel, and you aren't touching, we can feel their body heat. So that's a sense through your skin. And when you have all of these coming together, or if you have children as well who are constantly coming to you for touch contact, so, hugs and cuddling and everything. So you're inputting, your brain is receiving these inputs of sound and proximity and having actual people touch you. If they're just looking for snuggles, you can get touched out. You can get kind of sensed out as well. So if there's too much noise in the room, and so I'm talking about like proximity, but you can also have just this other people in the room overwhelm and not even be touched, and that is okay as well. Right? I want you to really just acknowledge that when that's happening to you, there's nothing wrong with that. That is just how your brain is operating, and that means that you just need some alone time. You need a change of space. Maybe you do need to go outside and feel nature all around you, that's the energy that your body is kind of craving to reset. Or maybe you need to be in a room with a blanket and some soft music and the door closed and to reset as well. So there are times as well when maybe our skin is being lightly touched. Maybe someone is sitting next to us and that touch is very light. But sometimes our body craves a deep touch, more of a pressure on our skin. And so sometimes the light touches can be overwhelming. And what you actually need is like a really big, deep hug or something kind of squeezing your skin more. So sometimes it's that, sometimes it's, and that's why I talked about if you do retreat to your room, there may be something you can do for yourself, giving yourself a hug, using some kind of blanket or article of clothing or something that's a little bit more tight fitting can actually calm you down. And I just find this also fascinating because we tend to think of it as like, oh, our body just senses when somebody's close by, but there is something more scientific going on, and it's so subtle, it's so hard for us to recognize that it's actually happening in our bodies, and that we do need to take care of ourselves when that is happening. So, and with a furry pet, sometimes we can be overwhelmed by a person sitting next to us, but to have a furry pet climb in our laps and we're petting them is a very different experience. That kind of calms us down, whereas maybe a person, it could be too much. And vice versa. It could be that your pet is driving you crazy and you just need a really deep hug or cuddle with your loved one to calm you down and just say everything's going to be okay. So I hope that gives you some things to think about, and I would love to hear from you. Do you find that you're sensing people in the room, that your body is more sensitive and picking up on those cues, on those sound, temperature changes, or just having their mood energy in the room? Sometimes it could just be their emotions, that if they're in kind of a foul mood, it can really affect you. I would love to hear from you. Email me at listen@mysensesmyspace.com, and I would love to just hear what your experience is when there are other living things in the room. Could be your plants as well. So until next time, thank you for joining me on the My Senses, My Space podcast.